welcome to the latest edition of UK Thrashers Guide to. This week we are joined by Chris from Mercenary Press. Welcome to the show, mate.
Hey, buddy. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Very welcome. Yeah, good. You keeping well?
Yeah, as well as I can. Yeah, keeping busy. I decided to start a label to give myself more stuff to do on top of like band stuff that I'm doing. So yeah.
Exactly. So the label is what we're here to talk about. Obviously, do you want to do an introduction? You know, people with steely ears and kind of may even recognise your face from the circuit. Do you want to kind of give a little introduction on, you know, how you've ended up where you are, really, and your band history, I guess? Yeah,
I mean, currently I'm playing in Inhuman Nature, which is obviously how me and you know each other as well. So I've been doing that for the last 2 to 3 years. Played in bands kind of the last 10 years, really. Was in Hang Bastard years ago. Did a couple of other bands, one called Mine, one called Group of Man, which is a bit more on the post-hardcore side of things as well. I did used to run a label a few years ago that was focused on more sort of punk stuff called Cult Culture, and decided to punish myself even more by starting a new label. So it's something I've been thinking about for a while, sort of procrastinated on it for quite some time, really. I just felt like the right time because I was getting bored, so I wanted to do something else. Just focused on like heavy metal, like sort of metal punk, more traditional kind of stuff like that is what I'm aiming at the moment. But it just seemed like the right time for whatever reason maybe. But I think through the relationships that I've made with Inhuman Nature, that's kind of spurred it on, essentially.
Okay, so the concept for Mercenary Press, as you say, kind of grew out of that. But what's the kind of, you know, it seems it's quite a kind of a do-it-yourself attitude type, you know, like a fanzine for production and sharing music. Is that you know, is that DIY ethos very much part of it? Is that kind of the way you're approaching it?
Yeah, like 100%. You know, that's sort of the way I try to approach anything that I do, you know, musically or any sort of projects I do. I just like to, you know, keep within the DIY ethos, like you say. I mean, it's funny you mentioned zine because we're going to start putting out zines. There's also scope to release zines by other people. That's something I'd like to do in the future as well. So, you know, to coincide with the first release, we're going to have a zine, and it features sort of everyone that's involved with the label so far. So, you know, interview with the person we got distro from, which obviously talk about in a bit, the person who designed our logo and all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, the label is definitely going to be focused on bands that are within that DIY world or people within that sort of world as well, you know. Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned distro and, you know, the name of Mercenary Press, you know, but you're also talking label. Is it kind of, how do you see it? Are you exclusive? It kind of bands come to you and you're their label and you're doing all that from them, or are you kind of picking up overseas bands that maybe wouldn't get any physical into the UK because of shipping, or how does it kind of all work, really? Because it's, you know, it's a bit of an unknown to many of us, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's unknown to me even after all these years. But yeah, it's kind of a little bit of both. What you say. So I tell you, one of the things that made me think about that really sort of spurred me on to do it was I wanted to order some records from a German label, and I couldn't because they don't ship here anymore. They ship everywhere else, but because of Brexit, they can't ship here because it's just too confusing and it costs too much money. Although you can ship through eBay, but it's more expensive, so that's more annoying because they handle the tax or whatever. And I was just like, you know, if I'm getting pissed off trying to get these records, there's probably someone else that is. And I was like, part of it was to try and work with bands and do releases for overseas bands that I'm into. So, for example, the band that we're putting out soon, Sadistic Force, they're from Austin, Texas. You know, and there's definitely some other bands I want to work with that would be from Europe, and most of our distro is made up from international bands as well. Although that doesn't necessarily mean I don't want to work with British bands, because obviously I'm based here, so that would be ridiculous. But it just, you know, I don't want to be shut off from everywhere else. I think, you know, you should be getting trying to do releases for international bands, if it's getting harder to get those releases here as well, you know, because obviously, you know, the metal community in the UK is massive, obviously. So if you're going to struggle to get records here, it's just a pain in the ass, you know.
We've kind of seen that from the big boys already, haven't we? You know, the kind of the Nuclear Blasts and the Century Medias and all those guys have already, you know, if you look at Facebook feeds, you see that people are hitting problems or, you know, getting kicked for tax by the postman before they'll deliver letters and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, is that something that could potentially be kind of reciprocal, you know, that you work with another label that are doing the European release or the US release, but you get the kind of the rights to manufacture in the UK and print, and I guess it avoids all that bullshit. Then you're not worried about tax, and you know, someone's going to send you the WAV files, you're going to burn them down, and off it goes to a repo company.
I guess that's kind of how it would work. Hopefully, you know, hopefully in the future that sort of thing we'll end up doing. You know, it's way easier to send things out of the UK. So if I've got to send, you know, a percentage of the tapes to Sadistic Force in the US, you know, I don't think you'd get charged anything in it, and it's no problem to send stuff out. But sometimes receiving some stuff in is risky. Like you probably saw Tom from Celestial Sanctuary got charged £1,000.
Flipping hell, for what? Importing?
Yeah, for getting his records in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably, you know, on top of, I mean, producing a record is expensive enough. And then, you know, but there is a good margin to make some profit on it if you look into it. But if you get in charged £1,000 on top, that's like, it really limits it, you know, it makes that a lot smaller.
I guess going forward that, you know, and I'm going to use this in the loosest possible terms, but potentially the positive out of this means that we can put more physical manufacturing back into the UK, which means, you know, duplication companies in the UK can get some more business that, you know, rather than it being made in a cheaper press in Europe or a cheaper press in the US, you know, maybe we will be able to put, and I guess people have to start balancing that out. You know, is it worth me paying an extra £1 per copy to have it made in the UK, knowing that I'm not going to have any additional VAT put on by the taxman when I import it? So, you know, I guess that's going to have to start being a bit more of a, you know, part of the thought pattern when you're weighing up the prices.
Yeah, it definitely will. You know, I can't imagine labels will want to get stung for that much money. I mean, obviously, I don't really know the ins and outs of it. I just saw that Tom posted about it, but he's obviously still psyched about the record.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't want to let that kind of ruin the excitement of putting their first album out. But in the same time, it's a bit of a. But
it's a killer, man. But you know, I think you're right. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of like cassette manufacturers in the UK, so I don't think that's ever been a thing. But typically, like vinyl. It always comes from Czech Republic. There's like one factory there that most people will use. And I think even the UK companies that, you know, I work with Cram to do the, you know, the charity CD, and I think for vinyl they go overseas as well. I don't think there's any home. I don't know. There might, you know, someone will, I'm sure, prove me wrong in the comments, but I don't know if there's any home manufacturers of vinyl definitely anymore. I think there are. There's definitely one actually in Hoxton, which is quite near to where I live. But I did email them about doing the cassettes, and they didn't reply to me, so I probably won't bother using them.
So, no. So in fact, it kind of leads me in quite nicely. Talking of media, you know, physical releases. Are you going to be vinyl? Are you going to be cassette? You're going to be CD? You're going to be download? How's it kind of? You know, how do you decide on the relevant media to use depending on the band?
That's interesting. I mean, it would definitely be all physical. So I think all those mediums you're talking about. I'd like to build up to vinyl. Obviously, it's just an expensive game to get into. You know, cassettes are fairly cheap to do. So, and obviously, as we just started out, or as I've just started out, you know, cassettes is the affordable option. And obviously, and if you're taking a bit of a punt on a band as well, that's a safe option as well, because sometimes it's just, you might think that something should be put out on vinyl, but it's probably a bad idea some of the time. You know,
when you've got 100 copies left under your desk, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's actually like part of my life. And there's a little nook in my flat that has probably 100 records of one of my previous bands, just sitting there, and every once a month someone will buy one.
Yeah.
And they're just still there, and it's like, damn, man.
It's going to take a few years to kind of clear the last few of them out. Yeah.
Yeah, or one day I'll just give them to a charity shop and be like, just have these.
Yeah. Why do I want 50 copies of the same album? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think it's downloads more. I think my view on downloads, by being a person that actually plays in a band, I sort of feel like, why should I have any of that download money anyway? Maybe unless I've invested loads of money into a band or something like that, which never really happens at a DIY level anyway.
No.
So I feel like the download is that, that's the band's kind of money, essentially.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With Inhuman Nature, for example, no one really has any right. We own the digital side of things as well. And obviously if we do a record with a label, then we just work out the percentage that everyone gets from that.
Yeah.
So, just to make things easier, just stick to physical releases. So, I do CDs. I used to hate CDs and I never buy them, but people do buy them, strangely. Yeah. So, maybe I'm wrong on that. But so I probably will do some CDs.
I guess it's kind of, and there's been a big, as you said, the vinyl resurgence, vinyl kind of mid-90s, I guess, nearly died out. People, and you can see vinyl releases from about 93, 94, probably to kind of 2000, even a bit later, were they're so expensive to even when you're trying to pick them up on eBay or pick them up on Discogs, because there was only hundreds of them, rather than if you want an early, South of Heaven by Slayer, there was a gazillion copies on vinyl, so there's
exactly,
so CDs were king. People fannied around with mini disc and God knows what other horrible mediums, cassettes kept on ticking because most people still had cassette players in the car and Walkmans and all that sort of stuff, and then obviously they died out as MP3 and everything got, but cassettes has really made a resurgence again, definitely in the last kind of 4 or 5 years. We were joking the other day when I posted that picture of the flexi disc, cassettes is they're a bit shit in some ways, but they're also very, very cool.
They are. They don't sound the best, do they? But I kind of like that. I like the lo-fi sort of thing. And definitely some records really suit going onto a cassette. They suit the sort of sound of it as well. They are cool. They're cool to look at. I think my girlfriend was having this conversation with her dad the other day, and he was like, why are you buying cassettes for? And she was like, they're cool,
Yeah.
Like they do look cool. And I think if you have a decent setup, they do sound all right. I'm not really much of like an audiophile kind of person. So it doesn't really bother me. I never like, that sounds a bit iffy. I'm just like, sick. Like, but they're cheap to produce as well. So if you want to do a demo, that's kind of the obvious option, really.
Yeah.
So,
I guess it's finding someone who's got the. I guess it's finding someone the other end who's still got a cassette player. I've got. I still kept my stereo system, and it never went in the bin. But a lot of people, everything gets played through kind of a Sonos amp or an Amazon speaker. So, but it seems like there's a good trade in picking up old cassette players and Pioneer separates and things that But
I need to buy a new one because I feel a little shamefully I had one of those Crosley like all-in-one record players up until the end of last year, and we got like a decent like record player now and speakers and stuff. But it was all right for playing tapes, but that's just like died a death, which is really inconvenient if you're starting a cassette label and you need to listen to things. So I have to get a new player now.
That's it. So here's your kind of first press to test to make sure it's all right. And you're like, yeah, it looks perfect, because that's about all you can do with it.
Yeah. I mean, I did get a test tape for the Sadistic Force comp that I'm doing, and that was all fine, and then it died after that. Maybe it was just too heavy for it. It just brutalized it. It's like done now.
It blew itself up from the inside after all those riffs.
Yeah, it had enough. So I need to get a new one sorted out. But there's luckily there's a really cool record store which I'm forgetting the name of, but they sell a lot of vintage like tape players and decent speakers and stuff like that. So when we went to pick up our record player, so I stopped going down this tangent soon. But they take you in. It's really cool. Like sit you down, you try out loads of different players and speakers and stuff like that. And we made them play Sabbath. Was it Volume 4? probably volume 4. No, Sabbath Master Reality. So just playing Master Reality over and over again on these speakers.
With every different speaker combination and different head unit and everything.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so anyway, I need to stop going down that rabbit hole. But yeah, needs to get a new setup to test all the tapes out anyway.
Cool. So so taking it back to the kind of the new business venture, where did the where did you come up with the Mercenary Press name? Where did that kind of pull out the ears from?
Well, I think because I sort of wanted to focus on more not really traditional, not really traditional metal, but kind of traditional metal. So I was sort of thinking about, I was just trying to think of names, and I was thinking about like fantasy novels and things like that. And I was like, yeah, mercenaries, they crop up all the time. That's an interesting name. And obviously if you look up what mercenary means, it's someone that kind of doesn't really pick a team and they just do whatever for money, which isn't really the side that I want to go down, but it was more that it's, I'm open to working with like different genres within metal, I guess. It's not necessarily like Sadistic Force is definitely along the lines of like Hellripper, like that blackened, like thrash metal, like metal punk kind of stuff. I don't necessarily want the label to just be, I don't want to be known as like, oh, that guy does these sorts of bands. Do you know what I mean? I want it to be quite open. And that was sort of the idea.
Yeah. So you don't want to be like 90s earache that, that's your grindcore and extreme label. You want to be a little bit more open. Yeah.
Aren't they like a country label now?
I think, there's some, they just still do lots of random stuff. Yeah.
I checked it out recently. I was like,
what the actual?
Fair enough. Like, well, you've got to do what you got to do. But yeah, so that was kind of the reason why it's sort of like, just has that sort of fantasy element to it. But just kind of trying to be open to different styles and things like that, and not necessarily like picking one team within the genre.
It gives you enough flexibility to kind of, as you say, kind of pick and choose what you like.
Yeah, so, exactly.
So you touched on that kind of first band there that first band you're going to put out. How do you connect with these guys? Is it they come? Obviously, I guess going forward, you hope some of them will come to you, but have you just reached out and kind of gone, look, I'm doing this, or do you have a relationship with this guy before, through the scene, or kind of how does it work?
No, I reached out to Sadistic Force actually. So he just followed us. Well, Sadistic Force, the band. I say he because he's kind of the main dude. He's sort of like almost similar to Hellripper. He's like a one-man project, and he just had a drummer that he got in. Although I think he's recruited members now so they can start playing live when things are all good.
So very much like Hellripper then, you got one man who then has got some mercenaries who come and do the live shows for him.
There you go, exactly. I just got a follow from him on the Inhuman Nature Instagram, and I always like check out like bands that follow us if they got like if it's a cool name or the artwork's cool, you probably go check it out. And he had his first EP up, Pain, Sex and Rapture, and I just thought it was awesome. And obviously I've been thinking about doing the label for a while, and I thought, let's see. I just sort of took a punt on it really, and I just dropped him a message. I was like, I'm going to do this label. There's nothing for you to see at the moment, but I'm going to do it. What do you reckon? And he was really up for it. And then within the next month, he'd already released the second EP. So I said, should we just do both in the same cassette? Because the idea originally was just to do the first one he did. But he just moves so quickly. He's just like, spends always spare time doing that band. So he's constantly writing and recording. So he already had another EP out before we'd even sorted out an insert or anything. So
when you mentioned it, because you mentioned it a few weeks ago, well, maybe longer than that now, I don't know, it all blurs into one at the minute, but you mentioned it a little while to me ago, this is what you're doing, this was your first band. So I disappeared off down the BandCamp rabbit hole and had a listen to him and download. So as you say, he seems to, and then suddenly you get the alert from BandCamp to say there's something else out there, and so and as you touched on there, you're not worried about that. His BandCamp is his BandCamp, and he can you're going to ship him some physical, so if anyone in the States wants a copy, he'll ship directly to them, and then you'll just kind of manage rest of the world deliveries for him, I guess. Is that kind of how it will work?
Yeah, it's kind of exactly it, really. I mean, that's always how I've done things in the past, even with like the bands I've been in, just sort of, you know, no contracts or anything like that. Well, I've never really go down that route. But yeah, you know, if someone's going to do a physical release for you, obviously that costs them quite a bit of money most of the time. So you'll take sort of anywhere between 10 to 20% of the copies. And then the label sells the rest. And typically what will happen, like, for example, we're only doing 50 for the first run. So hopefully there'll be a view to do another press if it sells quickly or not. But typically if you're the band, what you can do, so Inhuman Nature does this quite often, or we did when we had a record available, we would sell all our copies and then we would just buy back from the label at like the very limp cost price. Yeah. So they're not losing any money. But they're not gaining profit.
They're just breaking even on all of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's typically how it works, really. I mean, I'm sure he'll shift the tapes I send him, and then we can just do another press if they all go quite quickly, and just keep doing it as well. And obviously, the more you press, the cheaper it gets from the pressing plant, because they've already got it ready to go.
Yeah, so there's no artwork set up. There's no, as you say, there's no mastering required, or it's just to press the button and I'll have another 50.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all good, really. So,
and again, that goes into as you say, the quantities. There is a benefit of buying more. Better to buy. It's cheaper to buy 300. Your per unit price comes down if you're buying 300 off than 50 of.
Yeah.
But obviously, you're in that situation that you don't want to get stuck with 250 in your little cubbyhole where you store old records.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think the last like Inhuman Nature did CDs, and we printed 100, and I was like, am I just going to be stuck with these CDs? But luckily, we have 2 left now, and we only ordered them like June last year, I think. So that was a good move, but it's risky, like you say. Yeah, you don't it does get cheaper, and people order 1,000 CDs. Like, you're just going to give these away most of the time. Well, yeah, who your band is, obviously.
Yeah, and I guess it's a bit about break even as well, isn't it? As long as you've if I sell 50 of these 100, no one's lost any money.
Exactly.
So we're all good. And I've got 40 on pre-order, so you can kind of relax a little bit off that, can't you? But if you're purely speculating, then that's a bigger financial risk to you, and all that other stuff that goes with it. As you say, just the kind of waste of it all, really, as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't want to have to end up in 10 years down the line, end up binning a load of stock or something like that. So, sometimes it's better just to print a limited amount and then see how that goes. And then you can, go forward from there, even if you only are breaking even and there's a higher cost price. But and it's I don't like waste, it's no point.
No, exactly. So are you thinking, that with those small presses kind of keep some exclusivity, that, we're being a Discogs geek, you can find out that, the first press of something, if it had, this is worth more than another, are you going to tweak the artwork a little bit each side, or you just, will represses just be a straight up?
Oh, I think, definitely, like a vinyl release, you can easily do a different color, with a tape, you can just do a different color tape, something like that as well. So with the release we're doing, so he's already got both his EPs are already out on cassette. But so with this, like, for example, the insert is, it's got both. It's like lots of different panels. So it's got all the lyrics in there, which the other inserts that he's done doesn't have. It's got obviously we've got a different cover, which is just his logo. I can actually show you it. Give me 1 second.
He's what he prepared earlier.
Here we go. So it wasn't where I thought it was. So so you got that. Just a little cover.
Yeah.
Just simple. And then just a little black tape. We've got the logo. Got our logo on there as well. And then did like a decent long
old school
as well.
In the old school way.
Oh,
very nice.
Because I've got I like when I get a record and or a cassette and it's got a bit more in there. I always find it a bit disappointing when you buy a record, doesn't even have like an insert.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that.
It is the cover and the inside with the list on, and that's all you've got. You know, it's kind of.
It's a bit.
I was just wondering what's behind me. I've got.
Oh, nice. What band is that?
A Slammer, Work of Idle Hands.
Ah, nice.
So, from definitely from the archives. That's probably spent more time in the footwell of my car back in the 80s than. But yeah, you know, I know you mean. It is a bit. You say it's got. If you open up and it's a single piece of card which has got the cover on one side and the you know, just a track list on the other, it's like a little bit more nice. Yeah,
well, I got a Bathory tape recently. They sort of reissued these limited cassettes, and it was really long insert. Had, you know, all the lyrics in there, lots of info about the record and stuff like that. And that's really interesting. I mean, probably not just me, but I find that stuff interesting as well. One of the items we have on distro is this record by a band called Stygian Shore, and that came out on Postmortem Apocalypse. So he's that label did the Inhuman Nature live tapes, and they're like a band. I think they recorded that record in 1984. I did make a note about it. Anyway, in the 80s it was recorded. I think it was 1984. And it comes with like the insert. It has like old pictures of the band, like these newspaper clippings. It's got an interview with one of the members. It's got a whole little story written. So
it's a real like time capsule.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because it got recorded by Mark Shelton, who sadly died a couple of years ago, but he was a singer for Manila Road, because they're all based in Wichita. And that's how Phil ended up putting this out, because he was one of their later members. He produced it, and then the tapes ended up just kind of getting tucked away in a basement, and then it got unearthed almost 30 years later. They found it, and then he decided to put it out, and it's awesome, man. So it's kind of, it is literally like a time capsule. Like it got unearthed, and now it's released into the world.
So on that front, so that is your, rather than being the label side, that's your distro side. That's you're just taking a load of those cassettes from someone else and distributing those in the UK. Is that the kind of? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I'm the only person in the UK that has that record to distribute. It's distributed by High Roller in Europe, but they don't ship here anymore. I'm sure they will at some point, but they're not at the moment.
When they've solved all the Brexit issues, yeah.
Yeah. So Phil, this was also another thing that made me want to start the label. Is so Phil, he just messaged me and said, "I'm going to send you a bunch of these records, and if you can sell them, then please do." And I was like, "Well, it might be a bit difficult if I'm just trying to flog them through my own socials." So yeah, it just spurred me on to actually start the label and get some distro from him. So he sent me that, sent me the first Black Knife record that he put out. He co-released it on an old label that he used to do, and Gem's label, the people who put out their new record. So I got a few copies of that, and that's really nice. All like different color covers and stuff.
Is Black Knife the one I reviewed the other week? It was just a new one with the goat and burning church and everything on that. Ah, okay. So you've got their first cassette.
It's a record that we've got.
Oh, physical vinyl. Vinyl. Oh,
it's really nice.
I'll be
check it out.
One of them later.
Yeah, do it, man. It's three different. So I'm going down a rabbit hole here. So I get a lot of my tips from him because he does Postmortem Apocalypse, but he's also a screen printer for his like day job, as far as I'm aware. So he prints all the covers, does like all does tape covers and stuff like that. So that's why the live Inhuman Nature tapes came out so good, because he can do it all himself.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he printed the Black Knife covers, and all the three that I've got are all different colorways.
Ah, very cool.
It's really nice. I love stuff like that, man. Like going into those going the extra mile to make something look good is amazing. I hate when you get a boring release.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know where we were going with that.
That's all right.
Anyway, I've got those records.
Got those. So kind of going back to making things look nice. Who did your logo for you?
It was a girl she's living in Bali at the moment. Her Instagram handle was called Gut Slaughter, and her Instagram got cancelled or hacked or something. Or what happened to it? It got banned. So now her new name is Harami Mami. But what did she do? So she did our logo. She did the cover art for the Inhuman Nature live cassette. She did that for us. She does a lot of the Maggot Stomp stuff. She done some artwork for them. She did like 200 stab wounds. God, like a bunch of stuff, man. Really gory, nasty looking death metal.
That's a kind of niche of.
Yeah. She's really good, man. So she did our logo for us, and I sketched her a really rubbish sketch. And I was like, can you do something like this, but a bazillion times better? And went back and forth with some ideas. And then she was like, I don't really know what to do with this sword. And I was like, can you just add some blood and guts to it? She's like,
of course I can. Now you're talking my language.
Absolutely. So yeah, she did that for us. Yeah, she was awesome. Really easy to work with. Yeah, it's a shame. She used to have like 47,000 followers on her Instagram, and then it got banned without sort of no investigation or whatsoever. And it seemed really unclear as to why. Someone reported her for something. And yeah,
too much blood and guts on the it's weird what gets banned and what doesn't, isn't it? You can't characterize something pictorially, but you can be shaking your ass on it and not getting any trouble at all. It's a bit random what the banned people think is right and wrong on social media.
Yeah, it's bullshit, man. Like censorship and stuff like that. So
So what about the rest of it? What about the kind of the artwork and the covers and the layouts and all that stuff? Have you kind of invested in lots of Adobe Photoshop, or are you roping other people into to be the designers?
Well, fortunately, my girlfriend Izzy is very, very good with Photoshop and in design. So she's basically, if I have no idea how to do something, she'll help me sort it out. So she sorted out the insert, the sadistic force insert, and we just kind of worked on it together with ideas. We're putting out a zine as well. The first zine I did for Inhuman Nature, we just cut and pasted it all, but I just didn't want to waste all the paper again. Trying to be eco-friendly.
You did that proper old school, like I did when I did a zine back in the 90s. It was to the printer, tear it, print stick on a page and rephotocopy, sort of.
Yeah, exactly that. That's what we did with that one. But we're going to professionally get the zines printed. So I sort of wanted to do like a DIY looking zine, but isn't going to get crumpled and messed up. Yeah. So we're kind of going to print it as like a small book almost, because we both put out photo books recently as well. So what Izzy does, she does a small DIY printing press called Strange City. So she puts out photo books of, she did a photo book about signs that you see around London, sort of like unusual kind of cool signs that you might not notice, and like ghost signs and stuff like that. Okay. I put out a photo zine through Strange City, which was some black and white photos I took on a tour that I did in an old band. So like lots of roadside photos in Serbia and Turkey and places like that, where we sort of ended up. So we sort of found a good printers that we can that aren't like crazy expensive and do a really good job. So we're going to start doing the zines through them as well. So it's something you could actually sort of pop on your bookshelf or on your coffee table or whatever. And
yeah, so I say without it looking like a piece of normal piece of A4 print that's gets coffee stain on it and then it's trash sort of thing.
Yeah, so, exactly. Like I love all that stuff, but I think I wanted to do something that was sort of a combination of both, essentially.
So the first episode, you kind of touched on it at the start. The first episode of the zine is going to be very much about the first release, so it's kind of tales and story. Is that the kind of the concept for the zine itself? Is it going to follow the releases, or is it going to be a bit more wider spread and you look at other things as well?
It's a little bit of both. So obviously, I did an interview with Sadistic Force in there, and just tried to ask him some questions, just stuff that I would want to know. Like how's the scene in Austin, Texas? What bands influenced you? I always do like a top 5, what your top 5 whatever genre records. So for him, it was like, what top 5 black and thrash records would you recommend? That sort of thing. Yeah. So did a good interview with him, got the artwork in there, all that sort of stuff. Did an interview with Phil, who runs Postmortem Apocalypse, talking about, running DIY label. Asked him about joining Manila Road, that sort of thing. That's quite interesting, like touring. I've got there's like a short horror story in there as well that a friend of mine, he wrote this years ago, and I was going to do a zine about 5 or 6 years ago, and he submitted this story for it, and I never did it. So I've just had this story sitting in my laptop, hidden away for years. And then I messaged him, and the last thing we talked about on Facebook Messenger was that story about 6 years ago. And I was like, I know it's a bit late.
Hello, mate. Long time no speak, but
yeah, I'm still going to do this, and it's really cool. And we've got some nice photos to go alongside it and stuff like that. Okay. What else did we do? I got someone. So sort of related to Celestial Sanctuary, Wormwalk, who did the cover art for that. He's done a film review for the zine of this film called Zombie Nightmare. You know the band Four?
Yeah.
Or the guy Four, is it? It's he's in it. It's such a mad film. It's like
so is that a traditional kind of B-movie zombie flick?
Yeah, it's like a good bad movie.
Yeah.
Like awful. He's in it. Tia Carrera's in it. He's Cassandra in Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Adam West is in it as well.
Man.
Yeah, it's such a weird, what a mad cast, but it kind of looks like, I think it was actually directed by a porno director, so it kind of looks like it looks like a porno without the porn.
Right.
It's kind of weird.
Allegedly.
Yeah, exactly. But I was going to write about it, as my girlfriend bought me this for Valentine's Day, because I think it came up on the 4 documentary, we watched it, and I was going to try and do a review of it, but he's really into like old B movies and that sort of thing, and I was like, I think he's the perfect guy to write about. It's really funny. So I've got that in there. So it's sort of all different things, like, obviously it's music related, but kind of all like just the nerdy things that I like as well. And that's kind of the point of the label, I guess, is just like, I'm just going to do things and put out things that I like.
Yeah.
And hopefully other people will like that as well, rather than trying to think like, oh, what would people like, or what should I jump on next? Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because it's
don't
the
jump in bandwagons. The
trends are quite, they can come and go, and by the time you've got something to press and print, it could be, it could have been yesterday's news. Obviously you've landed quite well, because the kind of the one man black and thrash thing seems to be huge at the moment. In the UK, but overseas as well. There's lots of bands coming out that are doing not the same, and they all vary how much how much Motorhead they've got in there, how much Sodom they've got in there, and kind of how much black, but you kind of tell you're pretty open to anything. Obviously your Inhuman Nature's kind of crossover bias, so would you consider crossover hardcore bands? Would you consider Death? Would you is kind of, I guess, as you say, if you like it, you'd consider it? I think so. I've sort of got like a list of bands just in my phone, just making like, oh, maybe this band would be cool. But definitely be open to like crossover. I mean, obviously I play in a sort of band, that does that sort of stuff. Just anything, not anything, as long as it's good. If it's good, then cool. Like if a crossover band approached me and wanted to do something and I thought it was cool, then that'd be great. You know what I mean? There's sort of it doesn't have to be any barriers or anything like that. I think like labels like Postmortem Apocalypse is a good example. I know I keep sort of talking about them. I just like all the stuff they do. He puts out a lot of older releases. So he did the Stygian Shore record, but they're from Wichita, where he's from. The record came out in the 80s. Really quite like similar to Manila Road, that sort of like American traditional metal. If you're into like the first couple of Iron Maiden records, you'd probably be into it, that sort of thing. But he also put out like one of the tapes I've got from him is band Mar, like Polish, sort of like blackened like metal punk, but with some traditional elements to it.
he's put out some Russian like black metal bands and stuff like that. And it's all like, it's not, none of it's too like out there that it's random. It's all tied in together, but it's not all, he's not just a traditional metal label, and it's not just a black metal label or something like that, you know. I think
and you're trying to follow that same sort of kind of ethos, really.
Yeah, I just think it's boring if you're just doing the same, if you're just like the death metal label. Do you know what I mean? Like all your bands on the label have the word like, I don't know, sewer in it or something like that. It's just kind of boring. Yeah. Yeah, you got to mix it up a bit. And yeah, my musical interests are, you know, really, really varied as well. Not just in, you know, all the metal bands I like, all really, really varied, but I love other stuff as well. Yeah, man, just kind of, yeah, just whatever I find interesting and cool, I'm just gonna roll with that. Okay. You know, like I think the next release I hope to do, which I haven't got anything confirmed, but what I'd like to do is very different from Sadistic Force, but still within the same world, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Sadistic Force will come back on and doing the set, but you know that at the moment, that's your band, that's your kind of your launch product, that's the one that you kind of, you know. Are you starting to throw those other irons in the fire? Is there, you know, obviously you can't say because you're not on, you know, you've not got agreements in place yet, but there are bands out there that you're kind of talking to, or kind of at least, you know, online grooming to come and work with you.
Yeah, like, yeah, non-sinister grooming, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult at the moment because I guess I haven't done anything yet. Essentially, I haven't got a release out, so I'm sort of. I mean, I was even surprised Sadistic Force said yes, because if it was me, I'd probably be like, I don't know. Like, who
the fuck is this? Yeah,
exactly. And I was kind of like, but I had to sort of, I had to push past the embarrassment factor essentially, and be like, you know, do you want to do this? I mean, I assume you know, obviously lots of bands follow Inhuman Nature, but I assume maybe he liked the band, so I guess I had that.
Yeah, that little bit of credibility.
A little bit of an edge, yeah. I guess, you know, to be like, hey, I want to do this, so maybe that helps, you know. If you're just a total random stranger, maybe it'd be different. But yeah, man, I definitely iron up a few bands that I'd like to work with.
That sounds so creepy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. It is weird, isn't it? I've got an idea. I haven't. There's definitely a couple bands, like sort of legacy kind of UK bands that are cropping up again that I want to try and do some re-releases for as well, like old new wave of British heavy metal records that probably went under the radar even then, that's still really good. Maybe see if we can do something like that, like, you know, kind of, you know, just put out some music from the past that people would still get into.
And a lot of these guys are getting their music back. You know, if they were on even like on a major label that, you know, back in the day, but it had like a 20-year life of the label, then you know, the rights come back to them or stuff like that. You know, so there's a few bands recently, Detritus. They've kind of self re-released their first two albums that were on.
Right, nice.
You know, digitally they've redone it because they now own with their new label, you know, so it's kind of really interesting that some of those bands that, you know, I think, you know, some of the overseas companies have put out copies of, you know, you can pick up things like Hydra Vein and all these old thrash bands that have now had, you know, re-releases all over the world. And there's loads of bands, as you say, that, you know, they only ever did a few copies, or they never got past demos, or you know, that are out there that I think people would love to listen to and kind of fill in the gaps in the
exactly
timeline.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because, you know, I think that era of music is dead now, is, you know, like having some label owns your record for 20 years. Like, it's never going to happen again, is it? You know, it's totally different. So it's quite interesting that bands have been able to do that and come back, and, you know, maybe having the rights to their music sort of rejuvenated them a bit and got them going again. You know, it's kind of cool. But yeah, you can't even imagine that sort of thing anymore.
And I, you know, growing, being an old fart, I was going to say growing up in a different era, being an old fart, you know, I mean, when I started doing the podcast and stuff, I was very much still thought things worked like that. And I've had chats with bands who are on a label. So I haven't said, you know, I've never gone to them, can I play your music on the show? Because they're on a label, and if you're on a label, then there's all the copyright issues. And you know, there are a couple that are still in that position, but
Yeah.
most of them aren't. Most of them are like,
Yeah.
what the hell are you talking about? No, it's ours. They just produce it for, you know.
Yeah.
We're on the label from a point of view that they do the outlay to buy it, and you know, as we were talking earlier on, and it is very, very different. You're not getting your music locked away in a vault, and you hear these horror stories from when, you know, Roadrunner got taken over or whoever it is, and all these old masters got thrown in a skip, and you know, it's scary that, you know, that other people owned your music, which was quite, you know.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, we've been in this is Inhuman Nature related. We were going to do a CD. I guess technically it could still happen because we've signed one contract with a label, as a Brazilian label, and they were going to do a CD, and I think they owned the right to produce CDs just in Brazil and like South America for 4 years or something like that.
Right.
And I think because of COVID, it hasn't happened. But it could still do in that time. Like, we can't turn around and be like, you can't do that now if we wanted to. Not that I would, it's like, it's fine.
Yeah. But, you went into it with your eyes wide open. You knew that was the
But it was I really had to read that contract a lot. And it needed to be edited afterwards, because I realized, had we have signed the original contract, we'd have just given away all our rights to the music.
Yeah.
There was a typo in it. I assume it wasn't intentional, but we had to get it changed. So you have to be really careful with that stuff. Got to read through it really thoroughly and maybe talk to people who know a little bit about it. I had to talk to a friend whose dad used to be like a big reggae musician, and he handles always copyright and stuff like that. So he read through it for me and was like, "No, this needs to be changed."
Yeah, if you do that, you've lost your worldwide rights to that bit of music. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's mad. But yeah, I really try to steer clear of that. I mean, I think for any of the sort of bands that I would work with Mercenary Press or any label that Inhuman Nature might work with, signing a contract is really unnecessary unless it's a huge label.
Yeah.
You know, I would always steer away from that sort of thing, and never give away your digital either, because it's yours really. It's like a label really shouldn't have any ownership of your BandCamp or anything like that.
No.
You know, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
That's
I guess, you know, I mean, it goes back to the whole discussion about physical again. If you put it on Spotify, it's worthless now anyway, isn't it? You know, everyone and their dogs kind of, you know, even if you're downloading a couple of you know, people taking a couple of thousand listens, no one's making any money from it. So it stops. It kind of stops that risk, I guess, is, you know, that digital's not worthless, but it's not a money maker, if that makes sense. You know, you're kind of no one's going to make a fortune by owning your digital rights unless you're Metallica, you know. Also,
well, yeah, exactly. I mean, god damn. I mean, I think Inhuman Nature is probably coming up to like the 100,000 plays mark on Spotify pretty soon, and yeah, the money we've made from that is not a lot. It's you know what? It's enough to like maybe record half of the next album.
Yeah, maybe. Which is great. It's
really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's half of what you haven't got to find, but you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, a lot, you know, I mean, you're as a band, you know, you're kind of quite experienced as a group because you've all got, you know, done previous bands and things like that. Whereas, you know, some of these young guys are putting out their first, you know, demo tapes, want of stuff on Spotify. They're, you know, getting 500 plays is, you know, it's a pack of biscuits, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's worth it. I mean, yeah, the whole Spotify thing it sucks really, because they should be paying artists way more money, and maybe one day they will. You never know. I think BandCamp's pretty good for what they do. I know the BandCamp Friday thing is becoming a bit of a meme. It's pretty good. You know, it's a good thing what they've done.
Well, you know, if you're selling a CD for a tenner, and on BandCamp Friday, you're getting all that tenner, you know, that rather than £8.50 of it, or
exactly,
or £9, depending on which, you know, what tier you're on the BandCamp sales thing. So, you know, I mean, that's hey, and I'd rather see another £1.50 in the hand of the band than the hand of a, you know, massive corporation. And to be honest,
exactly,
you can't fault them for doing it. You know, they're a huge company that have, you know, who've supported the artists that they make money from for the rest of the year. So fair play to them, really.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good platform because obviously, you could go about making your own website where you have access to downloads and things like that. But ultimately, you're going to pay loads of money for that. So having something like BandCamp, where it's a free platform and they take a small percentage of your digital sales and you get most of the physical stuff, is, it kind of amounts to the same sort of thing you would have to pay like a web designer to do for you anyway. And then you have to update it every year. And, sometimes you might have to get them to do it. But it's really, especially for a label as well. I mean, obviously there's a label account that you can pay for, which I'm going to try and avoid for a while. Until we actually start making like
actually make some money.
If I can make the $15 a month, then I'll probably do it because it's quite handy. But it's got the tunes on there. It's got a merch store. Big Cartel is kind of the same. So we have both at the moment. One's for distro, one's for releases. It's pretty good that you can do that. And if you don't know how to make a website or something like that, it's super easy. It's cool.
Yeah, I guess following that DIY ethos, it makes it easy for all these things make it easy to do it yourself. It's not as you say, you don't need to learn how to do coding, you don't need to learn how to you don't need to learn how to do anything because you get the missus to do it, but they kind of
man. Whenever I'm having a problem with my laptop and I'm just getting like pissed off with it, always when I'm on a call, I'm a careers advisor by day. And I'm always trying to run sessions for these candidates that I work with, and stuff will be going wrong. And Izzy will just come over and just like press a button, and it will be like, fine, do this.
Thank you, dear.
I'm useless at stuff like that.
Right. So your first release, the Sadistic Force release, when's that actually kind of hitting the streets officially?
Next week, BandCamp Friday, 2nd of April. This is gonna come out later, but I'm going to announce the release tonight because I've just been sitting on it for so long now and I want people to know about it. The track, obviously, all the tracks that are on the tape I'm doing are out, so you can go and listen to it. And then we'll have physicals next week. So we've got we'll have 30 tapes available in the UK. Sadistic Force going to have the rest in the US. The zine will be available to order as well, the first issue.
So you're doing that through BandCamp as well?
I haven't decided yet, actually. I'll probably have that. So what my plan is, could be a good or a bad idea, is to have some of the tapes available on BandCamp in case you just wanted to buy a tape. And there will be some stock available on the Big Cartel with our distro in case you wanted to order other stuff.
Okay.
Because it would be a bit of a pain in the arse if it was just available on BandCamp. So I guess I'm sort of testing the waters as to what works better.
I guess. Will the tape come with a free stream as well?
Yeah, it will. It will come with a download.
Which I guess is why the BandCamp works well for the music rather than okay.
I mean, if you ordered it through the Big Cartel, I guess I could just give you the download card anyway. So it will definitely.
I suppose you could send a code, I suppose, with it, a BandCamp yum code or whatever they're called to.
Yeah, it does it automatically on BandCamp, which is another good thing. So I'm going to just sort of test the waters and see what works well. Got some t-shirts available as well.
For you or for Sadistic?
For me.
Okay.
You want to have a look?
Yeah, go for it. Go on.
So we've got some merch.
Very nice.
Available, which is nice. So I thought, rather than just having the tapes available, we'll do. So with the tape, you get a patch and a little pin badge as well.
Okay.
So I didn't want it just to be.
I've been bitten by your little pin in the past. Like little pins are not very little.
There you go. Nice. They were really big. You know what? With those pins, someone actually made them for us as like a gift. Just like a fan of the band. So he sent us really, really nice. This guy called Jack Witch. And
is he the guy that does he do pics as well?
Yeah, he does pics, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him on Instagram, yeah.
Really cool guy, man. He just he sent us a message, said, I've done these pics for you guys, where can I send them? And I was really chuffed with that. No, they look amazing. And he was like, I'll send these over to you. And he was like, oh, by the way, I made you some pins as well. And he sent us like 45 of those pin badges. Well, you know, really nice, really kind. Yeah, man, really cool. So so basically any of the money that from those pins that we've sold, just going to go towards recording later this year, as well as we booked in to record some new songs. So just going to go towards that, which is cool. But anyway, back to, sorry,
that's right,
digressing. So Friday, yeah, so Sadistic Force, get a patch and a pin, because I didn't want it just to be, you know, just a tape. I thought it'd be nice if something else comes with it, so it's like a nice package.
Yeah.
T-shirts to be available, and the zine as well. Fingers crossed. That's essentially, had the day off today. I'm furloughed on Monday, which is quite nice actually.
Yeah, you look really bothered.
To be honest, yeah, the 4-day week makes me think that I live in a country that actually likes its working class and gives them a 4-day week rather than a full 5 one. So yeah, so basically this weekend, just wrapping up the zine, got everything that we need for it now. So we're just gonna hopefully get that printed. It only takes a week to come back anyway, so should be all good to start shipping the week after next. Yeah, man. So quite a bit going on. I didn't want to just do I thought it'd be better to wait and have a few things going on rather than just like, it's the tape release. So we actually launch kind of as this is kind of what the label is about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Make a bit more of a kind of hurrah about it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I only did t-shirts because a bunch of people said that they wanted them. So I was like, fine. I hadn't really thought about doing it, but yeah. So it seemed like a good idea.
So do you want to pimp yourself out? Otherwise, do you want to kind of share your, you know, where people can find you? Your kind of, as you say, your BandCamps, your big cartels, your kind of social side.
Yeah. So it's Mercenary Press .bandcamp.com, and I'm pretty sure the big cartel is just mercenarypress.bigcartel.com as well. You can find us there. We're on Instagram, just under Mercenary Press. You can email me at mercenarypressmetal@gmail.com if you want to, don't know, send me an email about whatever. Send your band send your demos over. That'd be awesome. I'd love to like check some stuff out. That'd be cool. Yeah, and that's it, man.
Cool.
Just gonna try and do stuff. Keep busy. Gonna start working on next releases. Hopefully, I want to start getting some more distro in as well. It's kind of my next step, is to look at some labels. Try and just. I don't want to get stuff in that, you know, where other labels have it, you know what I mean? I want to try and think about things that where, you know, stuff you can't get in the UK as easy.
Yeah, exclusive.
We're not
really
on anyone else's toe.
Yeah,
man. And obviously just keeping in the stuff I like. You know what I mean? Just try to be a bit different.
Perfect.
That's it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Just try and work on stuff, man. Yeah.
Chris, thanks for joining us. Good luck with the new venture. I look forward to. We got the first release up for review with one of the review teams, so hopefully that'll be out by next Friday. And yeah,
awesome.
Good luck. Keep sharing stuff with us, because we're a bunch of geeks as well, and we find it cool, and we look forward to seeing everything happening. Brilliant.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Yeah, nice one, dude.